Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Today we are looking at some new pro-revenge stories. I hope you enjoy them. If you like the video, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe. The first story is called You Think That Is Unprofessional? My wife and I moved to our current city back in 2013. The standards for my wife's job here are different from the standards back home. She has an associate's degree, and most employees wanted a bachelor's degree. However, nothing could stop her, and she kept putting in applications. One day, one of the employers she had sent an application to called her back. However, it was not to tell her she had gotten the job. Instead, it was the manager telling her how unprofessional it was of her to put in for positions that were obviously above her. In fact, I'm going to delete your email from our system. Please don't apply anymore, it's just a waste of our time. I sent you a letter, since you just can't seem to follow directions in my emails. My wife, after she got over her initial shock, asked the manager for her name. I don't see why it matters, but Ivanka Tulip. My wife said thank you and continued her job hunt. Sure enough, she got the letter in the mail asking her not to apply anymore, citing inability to follow clear directions. My wife held onto this letter. I told her to throw it away, but she insisted on keeping it. Eventually, my wife landed a job at one of the biggest employers in the city. Not only that, but this employer was the main supplier of business to the employer that was so rude to my wife. Well, my wife is an extremely precocious and hardworking person, and eventually got her bachelor's and then became the manager over her crew. One of the manager's responsibilities was to decide who to send business to. My wife told her boss about the letter and what happened. She used that as justification that if this is how a business treats potential hires, then they really shouldn't be trusted with their business. Her boss honestly probably did not care very much and just let my wife do what she does. Honestly, my wife is kind of a badass, and it wouldn't surprise me if her boss just gave her whatever it took to keep her happy. Wouldn't you know it, the rude employer's business went way down. In fact, my wife would only give them business if they were the last ones who could be called. This led to the most awesome meeting my wife has had this year. You see, to improve relations, the crappy employer set up a meeting with my wife and my wife's boss and the bad business's top management. They needed this meeting to show how much value they could add. The day of the meeting comes and everyone introduces themselves. Finally, Mrs. Tulip says she is the manager and how nice it was to meet everyone. That's when my wife said, "Excuse me, I just want to be certain. Are you Miss Ivanka Tulip?" "Yes, that's me." "Oh, excellent. I'm so happy to finally meet you in person." Thinking she had an in with my wife, Mrs. Tulip was over the moon. My wife let them carry on and tell her all about how much value they could add to the business and how they could really help out my wife's employer. This is when my wife says, "Well, thank you. But unfortunately, I feel that we can't really give business to an employer who we feel has some ethical issues that need to be addressed." The big boss from the bad employer chimes in. "Excuse me? We were not made aware of any ethical issues. What are you talking about?" That's when my wife brought out the letter that was signed by Mrs. Tulip. My wife then tells them that if they treat potential hires this way, then it was an ethics issue for my wife, and it would be very hard for my wife to give them business. Since she had concerns about the welfare of the business, she couldn't approve any more going to the bad business than absolutely necessary. Mrs. Tulip turned white. You could hear a pin drop on the other side of the table. My wife thanked them for their time, but apologized and went back to her work. We don't know if anything ever happened to Mrs. Tulip, but that business has since downsized and has gotten a reputation for being a poor choice to send business throughout my wife's organization. What do you think? Was it okay that she brought the business down because of one manager? Let me know in the comment section below. The last story is called Getting Rid of a Bad Manager. When I was 19, I worked in a one-man store in my local area. Sure, there were a lot of entitled people that came in, but there were also absolutely lovely regulars that I bonded with. Unfortunately, what happened didn't involve one of the nice regulars, but a creepy older man. The man was probably in his 40s, dirty and just an outright creep. The shop didn't have any panic buttons, so when he came in, I was on my own. He was a pervert who would just come in to harass me. I hated working there because of this guy. I reported him to the manager multiple times, but nothing was ever done. I even showed him the CCTV, but again, nothing would happen. One day, the man came in saying to me extremely creepy things, and then he tried to grab me. I just snapped. I shoved him away from me, telling him to get out of the store, and that if he didn't stop, I would report him to the police. The guy laughed at me and said there was nothing I can do, until I pointed at the cameras. This enraged the guy, and he told me how he knew I lived in the area. He left, but I was absolutely terrified. I knew this guy was ex-military and he could easily overpower me. On a shift swap, I nervously came into my work as the manager was cashing his till. He saw me and asked what was wrong, and I told him what was happening. I said how I need to report this guy to the police, but needed evidence, so I mentioned the CCTV. My manager responded, "I'm so sorry, but I'm afraid you can't do that. If you do, then they will do a background check on you, and I will have to tell them everything I know about you." This terrified me even more. The manager was a friend of mine, and the reason I got that job to begin with. He knew that I had home problems, so he was basically telling me that he would tell the police about it and rip my family apart. He added, "See, I value you as a friend, but after seeing your true colors when you refuse to go out with me, kind of tells me to be honest with the police. Do you really want to involve them?" It became evident that the reason he never handled my complaints before is that I rejected him. He asked me out a few times, which I rejected, but didn't think much of it. Sadly, this got to me, and I never reported what happened. As scared as I was, I didn't want my family to be destroyed, and wasn't going to go out with him just to get the evidence I needed. Instead, I started to plot my revenge against the manager. The area manager and my manager were good friends. He let him off with everything during inspections. But rumors had it that the area manager was moving to a different location, meaning that a new one would come in and do an inspection. Knowing this, I patiently waited to see if this was true. One day I went in and saw a man I had never seen before. It was the new area manager, and he was doing an inspection while the manager wasn't there. Turned out he met the manager before and did not like him one bit. So he was trying to find something to fire him. He told me that he wanted to monitor the things I would do day to day in the shop, and so I did, badly. I made sure to mess up every chance I got, not scanning items, not checking everyone's IDs, stocking things wrong. The area manager was horrified and asked me if I was ever trained. I told him the truth, I wasn't, but he brought up my file saying I signed to say I did receive training. Luckily, my dad always encouraged me to keep a log of everything I do at work. So I gave him the week I started and the day I signed it, telling him that he just got me to sign it. He could check the cameras. Which, of course, he did. As a result, he sat me down and asked me what other things my manager did that he wasn't aware of. I told him everything. That he makes me and my coworkers take over his shifts to leave early. How he never fulfilled requests for holidays and took them away last minute. And more, including how he never processed official complaints and would persuade us not to report incidents. He asked what kind of incidents, and I told him about the customer and how he blackmailed me not to report it to the police, saying how the only way he was going to help me was if I dated him. The area manager was disgusted and asked if I had all the relevant dates to prove what I was saying. I handed him my logbook and said that I felt awful telling him all this as I didn't want anyone to get into trouble. That was a lie, of course. I wanted results. The area manager reassured me that nothing was going to happen to me, as this was all on the manager. I didn't hear much of it until eventually my manager never came into work and a new guy was there. I asked where the manager was and was told he got fired. Turned out he had a hearing that he thought was just about how he managed the store, when it was actually a lot more serious than that. He wasn't just pulled up on what happened with me, but it was revealed that he was falsifying paperwork and falsifying his hours. And he was stealing money from the store. So he was subsequently fired for falsifying documents, mistreating staff, abusing his power, and stealing. Later, he was getting taken to court for. The area manager used everything I said against him. I quit a little after this, but had a great relationship with the new manager. I also moved and never saw the customer again. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.